Hey guys, welcome back. It's Rick, and today I'm going to provide some useful tips and information to help you build out a mega tree. Let's take a look. So behind me, you'll see the foundation of my mega tree. The tree is already up, and so what I'm doing today is going to be adding the lights to it. And that's really what prompted me to want to do this video. Is I've seen a lot of other videos and channels of people doing mega trees, and they always show the tree going up, but they don't really provide any useful tips or information on how to get your lights to the top of the tree, or what you'll need to actually put a tree together, etc. And so I wanted to do this video today to help those of you who may be like I was a year ago and said, you know what, I want a mega tree, where do I start? And so I want to answer some of those questions. The foundation of the trees are going to be different. I'll walk you through what I have here in a moment, but you can make these trees in a whole host of ways. I've seen people do them with aluminum flagpoles that they pick up from Lowe's or Home Depot. I've seen people try to build them out of PVC, etc. But the biggest issue that you're going to run into in any mega tree build is going to be stability. You want to make sure that your tree is strong. Otherwise, you add all of that weight and the lights at the top, you get any wind at all, and that tree is going to topple. And so if you're going to add a mega tree into your Christmas light display, go ahead and spend a little bit of money up front and put it into quality materials, and that tree is going to last you a long time. And so that's what I have here. So I'll show you the tree, the specifics of the tree that I have. And this is a kit that you can pick up at christmaslightshow.com, and it's only a few parts, and then you buy everything else yourself. So I'll put a link to this tree in the description down below. But again, keep in mind, you can do mega trees in a whole host of ways. This is just what I happen to be using, so I'll share a little bit of information on that. So this again is from Holiday Light Show, and it actually only comes in a few pieces. So this bottom plate down here at the bottom, the thing that looks like a cross, it's got a little piece of metal on it that this bar then sits down onto. So the first part is going to be that base. That's all you get. You get the base. You get this little center, and that's for your guy wires to attach to, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And then you get the top, which is going to be the hooks. What I like about it is there's no need to dig a hole into the ground to have something to inlay. This is just steel, and you can't buy this you cannot buy it at your local Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace, things like that. You got to go to somewhere that does the steel piping, the thick steel piping. But the base on this, these guys, the support crosses just click right in. Now I've loosened them, of course, but then you just have your steel pipe, and this guy's heavy. This is probably 5-6 pounds. Then you put that in, put your pipe up on the top, and then it just snaps into place. So those three small components is all this tree kit came with. One, that small metal base that we use as the starting point, the anchor point for our guy wires, and our guy wires are these guys here, and that's just something that allows you to anchor your tree to the ground. And then lastly, the tree topper or the attachment point. Not the star, I added the star this year later, but the tree topper is something that allows you to connect your lights to the top of the tree, because when you're 20 foot up in the air, you want that process to be as simple and as easy as possible. So let me show you in a little bit more detail some of these components that may be useful for you. So main purpose of this video to give you some useful tips and tricks that maybe you haven't seen anywhere else. And so let's talk about lights. And so what I'm doing with this tree is I use Lightorama. That's just the software that I use. So I'm using I want a candy cane effect of where I have red lights, white lights, red lights, white lights, etc. But then I do a little bit of a twist to it. I'll show you an example of what the tree looks like now. That was my tree from last year. That's just using basic LED strand lights, mini lights. No fancy lights, no RGB pixels required, just traditional Christmas tree lights. And I've accomplished that by adding red and white strands and then a multicolor strand with each wire. So let me show you in a little bit more detail what I mean by that. So you'll see here, this is a strand of white lights, 2 strands actually. I have 2 strands of white lights connected and a strand of multicolor lights also connected into one braided almost strand of lights. And then that attaches to one of my hooks. Now, right beside it, I have 2 strands of red lights and a strand of multicolored lights, also attached to the hook right beside it. So I'm gonna go white lights, red lights, white lights, red lights. Now, another thing that I want to point out here is you do not have to have a full tree. You do not have to have lights that go around the full perimeter of the tree. In fact, I just mentioned, we moved, and so this year I don't actually have room for a full tree. So what you'll see is I've actually taken the end of my tree off. So it's no longer a 8-foot diameter tree. It's more of a 3/4 tree. And that works really well here because all you're gonna see from my light display with where my house is, you're just gonna see the front and a little bit of the side. I live in a cul-de-sac. Nobody's gonna be coming from that direction looking at the lights. They're gonna be coming from the direction of the street. And so I will have my lights in a 3/4 view. My lights will be visible here and they'll be visible from the front. Now that saves me on time and it also saves me on lights. So when you think mega tree, it doesn't have to be this huge tree that goes in a full circle. Make a tree that works for you and make a tree that works for your display. It also does not have to be 20 feet tall. This is a mammoth tree with a star. It's about 23, 24 feet tall. You do not have to have a tree that big. You can build this to whatever dimension that you want. The principles and the how-to, the guidelines are going to be the same. You could build several of these at 6 foot tall. You could build an 8-foot tree, a 10-foot tree, a 12-foot tree, whatever works for you and works for your display. That's what matters. So let's talk about lights. So if again, do whatever color works for you in your display, and you can change it up year to year. If you want an all white tree, well, it's gonna be super easy. Just put white lights on it. I'm going with a complicated design of candy cane striping that requires red and white and the addition of multicolored lights along with it. And so here's my white light strands, and you'll see I've got that strung out. Always test your lights first, etc. You may be asking yourself, well, why do I have 2 strands of lights attached? And that's just because it provides a nicer effect, a fuller look to your tree. And so instead of just having 1 string of lights, it's gonna look fine, but it's Christmas, right? It's the holidays. The more lights, the better. And so I've stringed 2 lines of Christmas tree lights together. I attach those together using zip ties. That gives me a nicer, fuller effect on my tree. The second thing I want to talk about with lights is, and then I'm going to attach this multicolor in here also, and I'll show you how I do that. And then the reason why I do that is because it provides this really beautiful effect with the red, the white, and the multicolored lights on together. Let me stop a moment and show you that here. And to be honest, I sort of stumbled across that by accident. I had all of them on and I was doing some programming in my Lightorama software, and I accidentally had them all on at the same time, and it produced that effect, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful. So I've incorporated that into the show and tell everybody that it wasn't an accident, that, oh yeah, I designed it that way. So I want to give you some tips on how I get my lights to the top of the tree now. We've talked about everything else. So here's some tips and techniques for that. And so this is going to be the hardest thing that you do. You'll see people try to attach these to those hooks 20 feet in the air, and they'll try it with zip ties, etc. And you can do that, but that is difficult, and that is time, and time is money when it comes to putting out a huge Christmas light display. And so you want to maximize your time. And so what I do is I use washers, and they're simple. I don't know the size of this washer off the top of my head, but big enough for your pinky to fit in. If you just go to the store, try to stick your pinky in the end of it. If your pinky will go in the end of it, it'll easily attach to the hooks. And you'll see that I've got that attached to the end of the wire. Now all I have to do is use it like this, clip the washer on top of the hook at the top of the tree, and now I'm not 20 foot in the air trying to use a zip tie or some other way of attaching the lights to the top of the tree. Now you will see some people, they have mechanisms like flagpole mechanisms, or you can raise and lower it. That's more complicated, costs a lot more money. I simply haven't put that time or energy into that because I've learned that I can do it easily this way with a few of these techniques. And so one of the things, let me show you. One of the things that you'll notice is on this with the zip tie is that it makes it easier, and then I'll just attach my other lights in, and then you can do this on the ground with zip ties and just attach them all together and then hang it, or you can attach your one color lights with just a zip tie at the top, and then you can do a braiding effect of simply just wrapping the wire around the other and then zip tying at the bottom, and that'll hold just whatever is easier for you. If you do it one time, if you take the time to do it on the ground, you won't have those issues moving forward as you work on them in the future. It'll be simple and easy for you. So now that you've got these set and you are using the tip of a washer, well, how do you get it up to the top of the tree? Well, again, I'll show you a video last year. I actually climbed the ladder I'm 6 foot tall, so I can get to the top of the ladder, and then I have a pretty high reach. And so I use a trash picker upper. One of the little things Okay, so we have the top of our 20-foot mega tree on, and we have all of our strands hanging down. And I was able to do that from just the top of my ladder by myself by using one of these grippers. You can pick these up about 15 bucks online, or you can get them at most big box hardware stores. This allows me to grab the top of that light strand, the plug, and then put it on. A few things that I'll note here is that I left my ladder positioned right there and I worked around it. Now, if I'd done this at a different time of day, I wouldn't have had the sun right in my face. That would have been easier. But you want to make sure that as you climb your ladder, your body weight is putting pressure on the side of the pole to give you a little bit more stability on the ladder. When I tried to climb from this side, I thought it might be easier to get these on this side attached. My ladder wanted to pull away from the pole, and that makes it more unsafe for me. So especially working by myself, I worked on this side of the ladder, so my body weight as I moved to my right naturally brought the ladder towards the pole. But you can see here all of my wires hanging there, using those clips on the end, very easy to do, not having to zip tie or work with those on the top. And now I can take these lights, and as I do my base, I can cut those strands, those loose zip ties, and then unspool that wire down to the bottom and then attach these as I go. So I'll show you a little bit of that process in the event that you're interested in doing this yourself. So what I like is, again, this just allows me to take my Christmas light wires, hit it over that hook, and then you want to try to get your washer flat. Now I'm going to put the camera down on a tripod and let you see me actually putting this up. Easy, just like that. So this part of the video is actually being taken after Christmas. I wanted to give you some more detail on my specific setup for those of you who might be interested in doing your own mega tree. So I love these ground anchors. These are $10 a piece at Home Depot. I believe these are the 8-inch or 10-inch, 250-pound rating per anchor. So there's 1,000 pounds of anchor force here, and I like them a lot because you screw them into the ground, and then with your tensioners on your guy wires, I really like these because this allows me to hook right in and then tighten this to the appropriate tension. We had severe weather here in Houston a few times this holiday season, and with up to 50-60 mile-per-hour wind gust, and I came out several times afraid that this was going to topple, and it didn't. It didn't actually move at all. So I will definitely continue to use these ground anchors, and with appropriate guy wires, this guy's not moving at all. So in order to get an approximate 8-foot diameter base, we're going to need 4 92-inch long 2x4s, and we're going to cut these into 8 pieces. Now, I'm not a carpenter by trade, so it helps me to actually draw out and visualize what I'm doing. So we're going to have 8 sections of board that are 36 3/4 inches long, from the longest end to the longest end, and we're going to get 8 of those. We're going to cut those at a 22.5-degree angle on both sides, and then those will connect together to give us an approximate 8-foot circle. So draw it out, see what it looks like. This always helps me. That way I don't make the wrong cut on the end of board and then wind up a board short and have to go back to Home Depot. So let's try this now. So again, I'm not a carpenter. I'm a cut once, cut long, and then cut it back 5 more times to get the right fit. But the cool thing is, once you get that first cut, it's that first board cut to that 36 3/4. It's really simple, because then all we have to do is use, get my angle here, just use that cut board as a template. So just like that, now I have the angle that I need cut. 22.5, set it in, line up our marks. work for us because this is the correct cut to start our next board. We just flip it over and we already have that angle. So then just use one of our cut boards, line it up, make our mark, line it up, and cut. All right, now that you've got your 8 boards cut for your appropriate diameter base, let's get back to the tree. So once you get them laid out, now this isn't centered around my pole, I've just got it laid out so I can connect it. You're just gonna take 2.5 or 3-inch outdoor wood screw, and then we're just gonna simply use a screw to connect those together, just like that. We're gonna go around just to make sure our base is connected. And then to hide it a little bit, I use some black spray paint and go over this and paint it just so it doesn't stand out, especially at night when the lights are on. All right, so here we are about 4 hours later and my mega tree is almost complete. Yep, 4 hours, it takes a lot of time. Keep in mind though, I'm using 3 strands of light for every line down that you see. A few things that I want to point out though, because I know people get frustrated and upset sometimes when they do things. It's not going to turn out perfect. For instance, we put in this rock landscaping a few months back, and as a result, I can't get the front of my base level with the ground. It really doesn't matter. So I took some of my landscape rocks and I simply set it on it. At night, you will not see that. You will not see any of the strands. You will not see any of the wire. All you will see are the beautiful, magnificent lights. So I want to show you how, got some aloe vera dye in the process here. I want to show you though one other thing. So I'm using these hooks, but as you can see, there are spots where, because it's unlevel, the hook actually won't reach that. So all I do is use zip ties and I create a loop, and then I create another loop, and then I tie them together. Now, I'm gonna have to put the phone down to do this because it's just me. Okay, so all I've done here is used a zip tie to create a loop on my key hook at the bottom, and used another zip tie to create a loop on the Christmas light that won't reach. And then I just connect the two together. Simple as that. Then I can tighten the bottom, tighten the top, and just like that, it'll connect perfectly. Remember, things happen. Things aren't always going to look perfect or be perfect, but it'll turn out all right. Just do your best, improvise as you go, and you'll have a fantastic mega tree. All right, guys, so I hope some of these tips and tricks will be useful for you if you decide to embark on the endeavor of making a mega tree. It really is an awesome part of a Christmas light display, and it's something that not a lot of people do. And so when people drive by and they see it, it really is a showstopper because it is so impressive. If you add software and things like that to it and do some of the cool candy cane effects or other things, you can do this, and you can do it with traditional Christmas lights. You don't have to go spend a lot of crazy money on pixels and all of these fancy lights. You can do it with regular Christmas lights and a basic mega tree kit. You can expand it and grow it and do more and more cool things with it as you move forward over the years. So again, I hope this has been useful. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I like to take the time to answer questions if it's something that I can be useful and helpful with. So good luck with your lighting displays and with your mega trees.